Our next storyteller, I've known him since college, and we...
You don't have to tell a story.
I want to. We were once on a radio show where we were both the guests, and he was like stealing CDs from the radio station like while we were on the air. Like he was ripping them to his computer, and it was making like a high pitched noise that like was on, like went on air. So it's a really good memory I have with him. Please welcome Frank Accavitti.
That's true. All East Lansing got that night was the high-pitched whine of my old laptop, but I got an illegal music collection to last a lifetime, so it's good. Hi, I'm Frank, and oft expectation fails, and most oft where most is expected. And that's the Shakespeare quote from a particular play, and if you know the name of the play, you know that it's a lousy play, and also you know the ending of the story. However, that particular quote is usually reinterpreted and updated as expectation is the root of all heartache, which is a quote attributed to Shakespeare, but obviously it's short of quite a few offs and thus and thous and thuses, and there's no way that it's something that he actually said. It's just a wonderful update on things, and it tries to communicate to people that the more you expect, the more you're going to be let down. And that's really what he was saying in the first place, and that's okay. But I'm not going to give a talk on Shakespeare. I'm qualified to. I have a degree in English literature. Fortunately, this is neither a lecture hall nor a TED Talk. This is a story, so I get to tell you now the story of how I disappointed everyone I ever met. So, expectation. I have, throughout my entire life, spent a lot of time living up to expectations. That's what we all do. We are told constantly, hey, what I'd really like you to take care of is, and the better trained you are by your parents from a young age, or in my case, not just my parents, but my great-grandmother that raised me, and she was Depression era, so she really had harsh expectations. You had to live up to them, or else you weren't going to get your ration card that day, and it was a really big deal. I don't know where she got her ration cards. Anyway, so I learned that whatever I had to do, I had to live up to other people's expectations. So, like some of our other storytellers here, I found my expectations to be a little bit more my own when I got to the point of going away to college. And I decided that I was going to go away to college and become a teacher. I wanted to be a teacher because I love being right and I hate traffic. So I picked a career path. Look, people, give teachers crap all the time for, oh, you just want the summers off. I didn't want the summers off because I hate myself when I'm not working. I don't know how to stop working because, again, great-grandmother, Depression era, raised with strong blood. Point being that I decided, I really don't like driving in traffic. What's a career where I can drive to work in off-peak hours? And also, how can I stand at the front of the room and tell people things that I know? And if you weren't clear that I like doing that, I literally told you a Shakespeare quote when I first got up here, and why other people think that it's the wrong quote. Look, it looks better on a laptop sticker, but we gotta stay true to the first quote. Good? So, I went to college, I became a teacher, I got out of college, I had a fancy degree, and I went right off and got a job, which was not the easiest thing to do. But I was confident, and I had all these new skills, and I said, I am going to go into this school that's been established for decades, and I am going to have all my new ideas, and I'm going to show these people who have been there all this time what all the new things I can do for them and for the students, which is, if you flip the script a little bit, what it looks like when you've been slaving away at a job for a long time, and a young, cocky a-hole walks in and says, hey, what you're doing is wrong! And that was me. I was the cocky one. So I walked in, and I started to immediately not fall into the, I'm going to be, I'm going to sit still and watch how everybody else does things, and go forward from there, learn my place, and then I'll introduce new ideas. Right from the start, I was 100%, we've got to do this and that, and I found my niche with the students. I did not with the staff. I have always been bad with working with other people. It's cool, I'm a school principal now. Anyway, spoiler, it works out. So, At that point, though, it does not. It is not going well because people tend to think that I am standoffish and that I don't participate well in conversation, and that I'm just a bit of a cocky jerk. And for a long time, I thought, well, that's just what they expected me to be. And so, about 3 years in, 2.5, which is when they start to decide if they're going to keep you forever. Because that's how tenure works. They had decided at the end of year 3 if they were going to keep you forever or if they were going to cut you loose. And, well, in the middle of that year, I started bonding with a man who was brought in as a new kind of administrator, that sort of thing. And he and I built up a rapport. And one day we were joking around after school, and he was telling me this story, and I said, oh yeah, this is how things were, and this happened, and this is great. And he says, hey man, don't screw with me about this. I said, hey, I'm not screwing with you, and we were all good friends. It was great. So the next day, I emailed him about something else, and I say, hey, you know, we've connected really well, I've got this great idea, I'd really like you to help me out, bring it into my classroom. Don't worry with this whole idea, I'm not screwing with you, you know, because we're buddies. And he reports me for using the word screwing in an email. Hang on. And my contract doesn't get renewed because I have a poor rapport with other staff members. So, and that's a version of the story that I told myself for the 7 years after that. And I left there, and I had a black mark on my resume because you don't just, even though you decide to leave and it's all good, you know, I decided to go and it just wasn't a good fit, everybody gets to suspect what actually happened there. And so I left that school, and I had to work my way back up through places that were not as nice, but that formed me very well, and I got a lot better experience other places, and I worked with people who were a lot more deserving, and I worked with coworkers who were a lot nicer and a lot more open to ideas, and overall, I obviously did better because, again, I worked my way up to school principal, so I did okay for myself. I don't know what he's doing, just kidding, I do, and he's not a school principal. But life's not about revenge against that man or anybody else, because it was about, for 7 years, that I based everything I was doing on building myself back up because I didn't live up to these people's expectations, and they decided to throw me under the bus and blah, 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 blah. But if you remember, I walked in from the very start as a cocky jerk. And I lived up to those expectations perfectly. Every moment of every day for 3 years, I was, look how great I am, I know all this cool stuff, you guys should really appreciate the fact that I'm here to help you out. And as a result, I was let go. And it wasn't because of the thing that I said. It's never the bad thing that you say that ends up costing you the job. It's how you react to it. And I fought it, and I claimed that he said it first, and it turned into a big rigmarole. And it was my reaction to it that showed them how I would handle the situation for years to come whenever I was brought into a conflict. And if I couldn't be trusted to work with someone else over something as small as the fact that I typed the word screwing into an email in reference to, like, jesting, and obviously not the other thing that screwing could mean, obviously. Is it a homer? Did you ever check? You know, if you inhale, it plays a different note. Anyway, yeah. All right, so what I learned in the end is that I was living up to their expectation perfectly. And they expected me to be a jerk, and so I was one. But for 7 years I went on thinking, oh, they were the jerks. They were the ones who got me. And it took me that long to finally figure out that's not how you work with people. It took me a lifetime of working with much better people, of really being humbled by that experience and having to work my way back up. And as a result, being a much better person, not just in teaching, but also in working with others, in being an administrator, and it's brought me the strength to be able to lead buildings and lead initiatives and actually make something out of my life and my career. I spent all that time that I was fighting against them with the expectation that I lost that job because I was a loser. And if that's the expectation you have, then you become one. I got fatter, I lost my relationship, which was technically a marriage, and things went poorly for me. I gotta wrap this. I'm sorry. Sorry, it's cathartic at this point. Anyway, but that expectation doesn't have to define me. Just like my son, who is wonderful, is labeled in some form or fashion as a child of divorce. It's something I had to report to his pediatrician, and they checked it on a box, as if that changes him and his expectations. And I would just like to say on his behalf, and because I'm learning from him and going on my behalf, that nobody else's expectations get to define who we are. We get to do that for ourselves.